Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Many business owners these days have heard of the concept of profit first. Now, this was coined by Mike Michalowicz in the book titled Profit First, and it's a concept that basically suggests that we need to prioritize our profit over our operating expenses. I mean, the normal default position for any business owner is really to take your revenue, what comes in, spend pretty much all of it, and then you get to keep what's left. You get to pay yourself, you get to keep some of it in reserves, but you have to wait to see how much you spend in operating expenses before you know how much you have left over in profit. And what the idea of profit first does is it turns this on its head and says, okay, we're going to make the money we make, but let's set aside our profit first. And then we know how much money we have left to spend on operating expenses. Essentially, what this is doing is forcing you to budget. Now, they don't use the word budget. They don't use the word budget at all. And I find that the word budget tends to be restrictive. It's indicative of a limitation or telling yourself no when it comes to doing something you want to do. And it can create some negative energy around the word and around the concept. And we don't really look forward to budgeting. It's kind of like dieting. It's something you feel like you have to do when you're in a pickle, and you don't want to feel like that. So instead of budgeting, what we try to do is we craft with our clients something called a profit plan. And we utilize the philosophy of profit first. Although we don't use all of the same tactics, we use the philosophy of profit first, but we take it one step further. And I'll explain. So in Profit First, what Mike Michalowicz describes is this idea that you will spend the operating expenses that you set aside for that purpose. So what we do is we then take buckets of those operating expenses. So beyond just knowing that we're going to spend it on operating expenses, we look at 3 to 4 main categories for any business owner. And we will look at the allocation among those things. So we look at how much are you spending on your people? How much are you spending on your back-end operations and admin? How much are you spending on client fulfillment? So we kind of have it these 3 different buckets, and sometimes we also include new client acquisition. So really, it's 3 or 4 different buckets that we use to describe how we are spending our money. So it might be people, promotion, and product. It might be you're spending it on advertising, you're spending it on product, you're spending it on operations, right? And it depends on what your biggest drivers are. So every business is going to be slightly different. You know, for example, our apparel retailer spends a lot in actual product, whereas we have a service-based business who spends a ton of money on customer acquisition. So we look at these different types of models and we set targets. So we're setting these zones, sort of these like safe ranges or zones of percentages of your sales that are going to each of these different allocations. Not only that, there are a percentage of sales and a percentage of spending that we look at to make sure we're within a healthy range. I've used this example before, but you know how when you look at your blood work or you look at some type of test results and you might see yourself plotted on some type of range of like what's healthy, unhealthy. What comes to mind, even though I absolutely despise it, is the BMI scale. You know, when you get that result back or you find out what your BMI is and it kind of like plots you on this little grid of where you are in relation to overweight, obese, underweight, and so on. It's kind of like that, where we can figure out, are you meeting your targets? Are you going over your target in a certain area? And do your spending habits align with your intentions? And that's actually one of the biggest findings we have when we do the profit plan with our clients, because we figure out that, hey, wait a minute, I'm spending a ton of money on new customer acquisition. And it just occurred to me that even if I took in all of these clients, or, you know, if I really did turn up the volume on that area of my business, I can't fulfill it. I really need to focus on operations right now. I need to focus on hiring my next person who's going to serve my clients. So you have to be focused on what is the priority right now? What are we focusing on this month, this quarter? I always ask that question of clients because it's really important to have a focus that even though you've got a lot going on, you want your spending to align with where your focus is. We always say that you have to focus on something to get results. And I think that's a really key factor in what we do with our clients in maintaining their focus on a particular objective. And we want to see the money go toward the focus and not just the mental energy, but the actual finances as well. So when we talk about a profit plan, I honestly think budgeting is very much like dieting. Budgeting is very old school and it's restrictive. And quite frankly, if you had the discipline to create and follow a budget, you may not need one because very often you find entrepreneurs who are in this position where they need to conserve cash or they need to balance out different priorities. And they may hear you should make a budget, but the likelihood of sticking to it is quite low. So when you come up with a profit plan, you kind of also integrate a plan on how you're going to maintain profit, a plan that's associated with your goals, a plan that is basically telling you that, hey, if you want to accomplish this, here are the things that have to happen. So what you're doing is you're connecting these different outcomes, these different behaviors to the results that you want. So now you're more likely to follow through on it because it actually connects to a result that you can feel and see. And that's what is really missing when it comes to budgeting, because budgeting kind of feels one dimensional in that you're just trying to control costs and keep things limited. But sometimes, especially for business owners, it's really unclear as to how that connects to their overall goals. Yes, we want to make more money. Yes, we want to keep more of what we earn. Obviously, here we are on the show. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't all connect to some type of goal and anchor to something stronger, then it's unlikely to happen. It's unlikely to be followed through on, period. And I think that it's really important for you to be aware of your numbers. And this is one great way to do it. So really tactically for a second, if you want to start this process for yourself, if you want to develop your own profit plan, here's how you're going to do it. If you're using QuickBooks or you're using a, online bookkeeping tool, you're going to go into your QuickBooks, you're going to run your profit and loss. Ideally, you're going to run it year to date or this year to last month if your bookkeeping is done monthly. And what you're going to do is you're going to just divide a few numbers out. You're also going to bucket these expenses together. So depending on how your books are organized, and I recommend running it in Excel so you can add numbers together. And by all means, work with your bookkeeper, work with your CFO, work with your accountant on this. They should be helping you with this. And they can answer these types of questions. But you can figure out what your target zones are for percentages or dollar values of what you should be spending on each of these things per month. And you can actually track your progress to see how close you were to that range. And again, no judgment, no punishment if you go outside of it. But at least you're aware. At least you know that something shifted in the past month. At least you have the awareness of seeing the behavior and what happens as a result of that behavior. And that's 90% of the battle when it comes to numbers, is being aware of them and knowing how they affect your bottom line. You might feel like you have no cash in the bank. You might feel like, oh my God, I'm just feeling this immense sense of scarcity. I'm feeling a little bit lost. I'm feeling disconnected, whatever it may be. We're all going through tough economic times right now. It's true. There's a lot of purse tightening, right? Purse string tightening. And there's a lot that people have to be fearful of. But ultimately, it comes down to you taking ownership of looking at your numbers, knowing the truth, and doing something about it. Because if you sit on the sidelines while this is all happening and you decide not to watch it go down, not to watch it happen, then, that is exactly what you're going to get. You're going to be able to turn a blind eye and not be able to do anything about it because you're not reacting to what's going on. And that's just the truth. And I know that it's easy to want to just maybe even shift blame and look at other factors, things that are working against you. But I'm of the belief that, I'm not in a position where I want you to give up at all or succumb to those other factors unless you've done everything in your power, everything in your control to steer the ship in the right direction. And part of that, again, is creating awareness. But also part of it is taking ownership of what's actually happening in your business, not just reading the financials, not just looking at it, but taking it and using that data to make decisions. And this is one of the ways to do that, is creating some type of profit plan. It could be called a cost allocation, anything like that. You can even call it a budget. But at the end of the day, all it comes down to is giving all of your dollars a purpose, setting up an intention on how you're going to spend this money, where the money's going to go, and how you're going to be allocating it among different objectives in your business. Then at least you don't have guilt about spending money or saying no. So if you're interested in developing your own profit plan for your business, we have openings for power sessions right now if you'd like to do it with us, or you can also apply to work with us as fractional CFOs within our core program. Check the link in the show notes for more information on working with us. Head to keepwhatyouearncfo.com. See you on the next episode. Hey, I'm so happy that you're enjoying daily episodes of the show. And if you want more bite-sized tips from me based on what I'm discussing with my clients and my team, text me the word daily to 860-609-6374. And I'll share daily tips to help get you into the CEO mindset, and we can chat about how to implement them in your business. Again, that's the word daily to 860-609-6374. Want a little bit less than daily? Well, you can also text me the word weekly, and you'll just get my Monday messages. Again, the number is 860-609-6374. Shoot me a message anytime. I cannot wait to chat with you. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.